Good day, everyone. So, I am here again for my last report, which is all about the various drivers of MOOCs, the political, social, and economic drivers for MOOCs. The list of contents are: why fuss over MOOCs? It's free and made in America. It's the Ivy Leagues. It's disruptive. It's Silicon Valley, and it's the economy. So these are the different drivers that have been pointed out by Tony Bates in his book, Teaching in a Digital Age. So let us have a short introduction. Along with advances in technology, education is experiencing a significant transformation. Digital education, or often called e-learning, has become a major platform for expanding access to education, improving the quality of learning, and encouraging overall student engagement. On the digital education trends refer to developments and changes in the way education is delivered, accessed, and implemented by utilizing digital technology, one of which is the development and creation of MOOCs. Now, let us start with the different drivers of MOOCs. Massive open online courses, or MOOCs, have emerged as a disruptive force in education, challenging traditional models of learning by offering flexible, accessible, and often free or low cost courses to a global audience. Tony Bates, in his book Teaching in a Digital Age, delves into the political, social, and economic drivers behind the rise of MOOCs, shedding light on why they have garnered significant attention and traction. So the first one, why the fuss about MOOCs? There has been a debate or ongoing clamor regarding MOOCs as governmental organizations, economists, and computer scientists have supported MOOCs, while universities, college instructors, and even professionals in online learning are threatened by the existence and proliferation of MOOCs. But the discourse is a more emotional and fear-stricken discussions. Well, that's the case for America, but here in the Philippines, even governments and universities in the case of UPOU have launched their own set of MOOCs. Generally, MOOCs have generated substantial buzz due to their potential to democratize education, making high-quality learning experiences accessible to learners worldwide. They offer flexibility in terms of time, location, and pace of learning, breaking down the barriers to education such as geographical constraints and financial limitations. In the Philippines, for example, where access to quality education remains a challenge, MOOCs have gained attention as a means to supplement traditional learning methods. Platforms like Coursera, Udemy, and edX offer courses that Filipino learners can access to enhance their learning skills and knowledge regardless of their location or socioeconomic status. For the second one, it's massive, it's free, and it's made in America. The origin of MOOCs in the United States, particularly in prestigious institutions like Stanford, were the professors who created the first MOOC, which garnered 200,000 sign-ups around the world for the reason that the course was free. And it came from professors of a prestigious university, so to speak. Then MIT and Harvard launched their own MOOCs, which contributed greatly to their global appeal. The American MOOC model, characterized by its scale, quality, and often free or low-cost nature, has set the standard for similar initiatives worldwide. In the case of the Philippines, many MOOCs offered by American universities are popular among Filipino learners seeking quality education. The allure and bragging rights of courses from institutions like Harvard or Stanford motivates learners in the Philippines to enroll in MOOCs, recognizing the prestige associated with these universities. Which leads us to the third, which it's the Ivy Leagues. The start of MOOC's footstep to global reach started in 2011 through online courses from Carnegie Mellon, Penn State University, and the University of the Maryland in the USA. Also, public universities in Canada, with three course enrollments in the USA now in online courses. The involvement of Ivy League universities jumping into the bandwagon of online learning, and by launching into MOOCs, these universities jump ahead of the queue in terms of technology innovation. The Ivy Leagues spearheading the MOOC movement has lent credibility and prestige to online learning. Their participation has helped legitimize MOOCs as a viable alternative to traditional education, attracting learners who value the reputation and expertise of these institutions. In the Philippine setup, Filipino learners often perceive MOOCs offered by Ivy League universities as a pathway to prestigious credentials and opportunities for career advancement. But as a disclaimer, I am not informed if there are any universities here in the Philippines that would actually credit your certificates from MOOCs as a credit to an undergraduate or graduate program. So correct me if I'm wrong. The association with renowned institutions motivates individuals in the Philippines to enroll in MOOCs, enhancing their skills and credentials. So, as I have said, it's more of enhancing or upskilling yourself when actually enrolling into these types of MOOCs, especially those that are offered in Coursera, edX, Udemy, and the like. Now let us move on with the fourth. It's disruptive. As we all know, MOOCs challenge the traditional higher education model by offering scalable, cost-effective alternatives to traditional courses. They disrupt existing paradigms by empowering learners to take control of their own education by passing traditional gatekeepers and institutions. In the Philippines, where traditional higher education can be expensive and inaccessible to many, MOOCs represent a disruptive force that provides affordable and flexible learning opportunities. Filipino learners increasingly turn to MOOCs to acquire skills and knowledge outside of traditional educational institutions. One great example of this is actually the DOST Sparta program, where they actually launch MOOCs with regards to data analytics and the like. So even high school graduates, so since the minimum requirement is actually having a high school diploma, you could actually learn about data analytics with a high school diploma, and it's actually accredited. So I was one of the first few graduates of the Sparta program, and DepEd actually accredited my program or the programs that I have attended from MOOCs. So there you have it. It's the Silicon Valley. The involvement of Silicon Valley tech giants in the MOOC movement underscores the influence of technology on education. The start of MOOCs were similar with the startups of Silicon Valley, or the startup of a business from a Silicon Valley, starting with a bright idea thrown into the market to test the waters for its feasibility and acceptability, and building a business model based on this data. This is why early MOOCs disregarded the pedagogical theory about the best practices in online learning and learning, as well as research factors associated with the success and failures in online learning, thus resulting to a low completion rates of these MOOCs. Companies like Coursera and to a lesser extent edX still ignore this and would rely on their own research even it means reinventing the wheel. So the influence of Silicon Valley tech companies is evident in the adoption of MOOCs in the Philippines. Platforms like Coursera and Udemy are popular among Filipino learners who appreciate the user-friendly interface, interactive features, and diverse course offerings. But it can be seen that these MOOCs are sometimes plagued with monotonous videos and lectures and would only often have limited assessment strategies, which begs the question, are they really of that high quality? The business model still stands, as Coursera and edX would often ask payments for their accredited courses to be able to finish the courses and gain the certificates. There is a question of, is it really inclusive if you have to pay for these high quality courses? Number six, it's the economy, stupid. Or it's the economy. So pardon me, it's actually written in the book of Tony Bates as it's the economy, stupid. Regardless of MOOCs with payments, free MOOCs offered by organizations such as in the case of our country, those offered by DOST and DICT, respond to the growing demand for lifelong learning and continuous skill development in a rapidly changing global economy. They provide opportunities for individuals to upskill, reskill, and stay competitive in the job market, addressing the need for flexible, affordable, and relevant education. For example, in the Philippines, where the job market is highly competitive and skills requirements are evolving rapidly, MOOCs offer a lifeline for individuals seeking to enhance their employability. Courses in fields such as technology, business, and even in healthcare are particularly popular among Filipino learners looking to advance their careers. So let us not panic. While MOOCs pose challenges to traditional educational institutions and practices, they also present opportunities for innovation and collaboration. Rather than viewing MOOCs as a threat, educators and institutions can embrace them as a complement to existing teaching methods, leveraging their potential to reach diverse learners and enhance learning outcomes. Educators and policymakers in the Philippines are encouraged to adopt a proactive approach to MOOCs. One great example is UPOU, annually dispensing different types of books for the public, recognizing their potential to supplement additional education and address gaps in access and affordability. By integrating MOOCs into existing educational frameworks and promoting digital literacy, the Philippines can harness the benefits of online learning for its population. Various educational technologies such as e-learning platforms in the form of MOOCs, virtual classrooms, and educational applications are catalysts for change. They open the door to more interactive learning experiences, support collaboration between students, and give educators tools to personalize learning. As a conclusion, there is still a long way to go for MOOC as it has not proven yet its effectivity and efficiency in delivering quality education. There is a choice to improving it and it being based on research-based and evidence-based decisions and pedagogy without bumping up the cost or the exploration and development of new and other means of online learning and educational technology that could lead to a more cost-effective learning outcomes that meets the needs of the learners. The political, social, and economic drivers outlined by Tony Bates shed light on the multifaceted nature of the MOOC phenomenon. While MOOCs offer unprecedented opportunities for democratizing education and fostering lifelong learning, they also pose challenges and uncertainties for educators, institutions, and policymakers by understanding and contextualizing these drivers. Stakeholders can navigate the evolving landscape of online education and harness its potential for the positive impact. So that is all. Thank you for my discussion points. Kindly look at the description of this video. Thank you very much.